think happy.
Hello random person, Sab Nino here. Wanna know one of my favorite hobbies? Making niche videos. Wanna know another favorite hobby? Board games. You know what show has a ton of niche board games? SpongeBob McBob-Pants. So let's go over the franchise's entire library of board games. Okay, probably not everyone, but the ones I was able to find. Plus, some of these games I do own, so I'll be sure to show them off. Let's start this video off with 2002's A Wacky Race to the Krusty Krab, the very first SpongeBob board game. I think this Agent Relic would be better if I showcased it rather than explained it. So let's cut to live action. I have been dying to show this off, and I haven't had an opportunity to play it with anybody, so it unfortunately came in pretty damaged, and I bought this right after seeing a better listing, but that's okay. I'm just happy to have this in my collection. This definitely has green label all over it. You also get this little thing that says 6 picks. I have no idea what that is. Would you guys want me to tackle the Nickelodeon games as well? Like the crossover ones? Feel free to comment below. She blows. I know for a fact that there's a typo in here. Here it says go to the Krusty Krab. You could tell that this is one of the earliest SpongeBob items because they didn't know how to spell Krusty Krab, despite it getting it correct the first time. Here's all the pieces. They are uncolored, but I say the sculpting is really good and definitely makes up for it. They're probably based on the season 2 model sheets, I believe. Also, Patrick is just thin for some reason. I don't know what's up with that. And since these are based on the model sheets, there's not a pickle out of place. You also get these doubloons. Unfortunately, I do not have the treasure chest that came with this, so I'm just keeping these in a bag. Also, I really like these dice. I like how they went with a translucent blue opposed to just normal dice, so that's what they could have just done. Here's the board. It is pretty detailed, and I like it. It's very unique. It isn't 100% geographically correct, but that's okay. But depending on who you play, you have a certain place to start. I'll be SpongeBob, so I will go to the SpongeBob space. Then you roll the dice. I believe you go this way, and you do whatever it says on the thing. On this one, it says, do karate with Sandy, yell hi-ya, and collect 1 coin. So, you collect a coin. And basically, you need 8 coins to get into the Krusty Krab, because apparently there is a fee to get into the Krusty Krab. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's okay. It's a board game. But overall, for the first SpongeBob board game, they definitely could have done worse. I had fun with this. Sometimes it does feel like an endless loop, but other than that, I would recommend this, especially if you're a SpongeBob collector like I am. Next up is 2002's SpongeBob Splash and Roll game. Roll zany pairs with your SpongeBob dice, then move your jellyfish. First one to SpongeBob's pineapple wins. The dice gimmick is very fascinating because it's literally just a SpongeBob figure, and where you go seems to be based on the location SpongeBob falls. I'll give them points for originality. Also, you can get to play as jellyfish, which look like those wall crawlers you can get at Five Below. So I wonder if the goal is house evasion, kind of like Jellyfish Jam. 2003 to 2004's Bikini Bottom Book of Games. As the name implies, it's a book with multiple games within. This includes Mrs. Puff's Boating School, Sandy's Rocket Game, the R Game, the Hooky Game, and the Road Trip based on the first movie. The board pieces look like colored versions of the characters used in the Wacky Race to the Krusty Krab, but I could be entirely wrong on that. Also, good luck finding this, because listings online are either hella pricey or damaged. 2004's Bikini Bottom Beach Party game. I played this one when I was around 6 years old, and I still wish I owned it. SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, and Gary are going to a luau, but there's not enough party gear for everyone. So it's up to the players to collect accessories around town, and the first person to complete their wardrobe wins. I really love this gimmick of winning via dress up. I think more games should incorporate that style of gameplay. Now we're getting into the ones based on mainstream board games, starting with 2005's The Game of Life SpongeBob Edition. This was another one I played as a kid, which makes me wish I still had it. It's basically The Game of Life with a SpongeBob coat of paint, which sounds really fun. There was also a PC game I used to play that released around 2009, which pretty much serves as the same game, but was added mini-games to immerse you into the experience a little more. If you want more info on this game, Lucy Lilliam has a great video on this, and another one I'm about to mention. For nautical nonsense, flipped ants into SpongeBob's pants is a sentence that gets weirder every time you say it. But yes, in the exact year, we got Ants in the SquarePants based on the iconic Ants in the Pants. I own a re-release version of this game, but it's pretty much the same as the original, just in different packaging, so let's take a look. Next up is Ants in the SquarePants. This is the re-release. I'm honestly surprised this got a re-release. I actually owned the original one back in the day, but let's take a look. Off to a bad start, it broke. It takes a little bit of setup, but it's thankfully simple. I really should hot glue this arm. But basically, one side is like this, and the other side is like this. I'm not sure which one's creepier in this context. These are the colored ants. I like how they color-coded them to be SpongeBob's color palette. Like, these are the socks, this is his tie, this is SpongeBob's body, and these are his holes. And the player to get all 4 of their ants into his pants wins. It's a weird premise for a SpongeBob game, but I can't help but respect it for that. Can we get Don't Break the Ice next? I think that's the better game. I finally have a chance to show this off. I haven't had an opportunity to, so I'm really happy I get to. Can you believe they found this at a thrift store? And this is the original Monopoly. I wonder what's on the Nick knowledge. It doesn't want to focus. Okay, it basically just says Squidward's an octopus. Let's open this bad boy. Even this part of the box is really cool. It's like painted like the show, and you get like a Patrick and you get a Squidward. It's really neat. These are all the pawns. I really love the posing on all of them. It's very unique. It's not just a basic pose for all of them. I like how SpongeBob has his jellyfish net, Patrick kind of has like a saluting pose, Squidward's, I believe he's uncharacteristically smiling, Sandy just kind of presenting, Gary has shoes, Mr. Krabs is collecting money, and a little detail I really enjoy. His claws are holding like a doubloon, and I think that's really cool. It also gives you this collectible plankton coin. As a kid, I would always just use this as a playable character too, because I had people in the family who love plankton, and given that the Plankton movie came out, I don't blame them. The dice are just standard dice, which is a little odd because on the back of the box, it shows them to be blue, like a translucent blue, similar to the Wacky Race set. I'm pretty sure the one I had as a kid had these too, so I don't know. And one of my favorite SpongeBob themed things, instead of the pawns, has to be the house and hotel, because the house is a pineapple and the hotel is the Krusty Krab. I'll be honest, I'm surprised they didn't make the Krusty Krab Krusty Towers, given that this came out in 2005, and I'm sure that episode would have been out by then. But this is still wonderful theming. We also have this themed Krabby currency. The lowest form of currency is $1, and the highest is $500. They didn't have to do this, but I absolutely love the theming of these. We have these cards. I'm not sure what exactly they do. I think they just tell you the value of certain places. We also have life preservers and the treasure chest cards. I actually don't know what these do. It's been years since I played Monopoly, especially this edition. And last and certainly not least, the board. I love the art they featured for the board. It is original art made specifically for this board, and I love it. And that's Monopoly. Monopoly SpongeBob Edition has to be one of the most re-released board games of this entire lineup. We have the PC game, which Lucy also made a video on. There was the 2010 version that simply changed the box, but kept everything else, though I miss the eye gimmick. However, the 2014 version took a major downgrade. The 6 to 7 silver characters have been reduced to uncolored Game of Life pieces, and the Pineapple and Krusty Krab are generic houses and hotels. Even the board took a downgrade. Instead of the original art made specifically for the board, they ended up using stock art. The 2019 version technically has a better box, but I personally still prefer the original. Sadly, there's still no themed hotels and houses, but the pieces got re-released in silver at least. The last Monopoly is unfortunately SpongeBob Meme Edition. And now, this is the only one you can see in stores. I don't like it because it took something that was once timeless and instead made it painfully modern. Plus, SpongeBob is the only show with a meme edition on Monopoly. Trust me, I've checked. The only positive thing I could say about it are the silver pieces, because those are actual references to the show and not just cheap meme humor. So if I were to recommend any of the versions of Monopoly SpongeBob Edition, I would pick the original. That's not nostalgia talking, I genuinely think it's the better version out of all of them. 2006 Great Jellyfish Escape. SpongeBob and his friends are heading from Jellyfish Fields to the Krusty Krab for a delicious lunch. But the giant jellyfish is not happy to see them. Move your pawns north, south, east, and west according to the direction die. Take shell spaces for shortcuts, but don't get stung by the giant jellyfish. The first player to reach the Krusty Krab wins. This looks like one of those games where it takes a while to get used to, but it looks like a fun time. Now back to the licensed games. 2007's Operation SpongeBob. Operation is the only instance of surgery that I don't have to close my eyes for, along with the episode Cody Hello. The box art looks rather concerning though. I wouldn't trust any of these characters with my surgery. In Krusty Towers, Mr. Krabs hinted at Patrick and Squidward going to medical school, so perhaps this is the result of that. This game is fun, and I love the SpongeBob-y pieces you have to get out, from a literal barnacle brain, clammy hand, and the heart-stopping Patty Pleasure Center. If you like SpongeBob and or Operation, this would be one I recommend. 2008 Sorry SpongeBob Edition. This one is very self-explanatory. You have 4 of the same color, and you have to go across the board in order to get all of them in their home. As implied, this is just a reskin of Sorry, but with SpongeBob assets. But sometimes that's all a game needs. I can't say it doesn't feel like SpongeBob at its core, but I wouldn't consider it a must-have. Connect 4 SpongeBob Edition. Connect 4, a classic game with an absorbing twist. And here's the back of it. I love how they gave it this island sort of look. They didn't have to do that, but I madly appreciate it. This is basically the board? Not sure if I could really call it a board though. The only real theming is the brown pants. In the 2008 version, you could play as either SpongeBob or Patrick. They look really good, though I do wish these were printed instead of just being stickers because these were a bitch to put on. And the only new gimmick is this SpongeBob locker. You can just put them anywhere on the board, just for a little bit of challenge. And the objective of this game is to just try and get 4 in the row. The blocker does add a little bit of challenge, and the slider makes them go wee. In 2008, you can either play as SpongeBob or Patrick, while in the 2014 re-release, Patrick was replaced with Plankton. Honestly, I like the Patrick option better, since it implies a friendly game opposed to good versus evil. Cranium SpongeBob Edition. This was one of those games I only wanted as a kid for the SpongeBob theming. I had no idea what a cranium was other than the fact that I loved the art style. But according to Google, teams compete in activities by answering questions, solving word games, drawing, sculpting, and playing charades. I will say that the board looks really good. It's on par with the Monopoly board. You also get these cool red glasses, which gives you a cool image on the back of the board. SpongeBob Memory Game. It's just memory. Not much to say, but I'm shocked that they didn't do this earlier. And to wrap up 2008, we have Tub Full of Games, 6 Games on Wheels. There's multiple versions of these game compilations, but the 2008 version includes checkers, bingo, tic-tac-toe, Go Fish, Crazy Eights, and dominoes. I don't have this one, but I have something that came out around the same time, so let's have a look. You'd be surprised on what you can find at a thrift store. This came out in 2009, and it's basically dominoes and bingo. It already fell out, so let's just take a look. I am positive I had this as a kid, just with a different packaging. I really like how instead of like a number, it's like the characters. So basically you spin, and I got Patrick, so you just put a little thing on Patrick. These are the tokens. It also comes with dominoes, and I could have sworn these were bigger, but maybe that's because I was just an itty bitty child when I had this, so they probably looked bigger by comparison, but they still look cool. Again, I love the theming. I really like how they didn't update the stock art on these, making them still feel vintage despite their re-release box. We also have the infamous SpongeBob 3D DVD game. I have played this before on this channel, I even documented it, but here's what it contains. It has a bunch of cards with a lot of the characters on it, like Mr. Krabs, Patrick, Squidward, Gary, Sandy, and we have a challenge card. We also have these Chroma Depth 3D glasses, which, when I played this game for the first time, I thought these were very progressive, and they kind of are, but this is a very specific kind of 3D called Chroma Depth, where the depth is based on the color. For instance, red is at the front and purple's at the very back. But I appreciate them doing something different, and here's the disc. I'm not going to show you what's in it because I already documented it. Let's move on to the next thing. Let's start 2010 with the SpongeBob clam catching game. You know that fish catching game you would play in elementary school? Take that, but theme it to SpongeBob. The clam catching game is based on the episode Clams, where SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs go clam fishing. The other day I started overthinking this. Clams are meant to be birds, right? So is clam fishing the equivalent of killing birds? But if they are birds, what's up with Clamu? Is she just a massive bird? Anyway, this comes in a big version and a smaller version for on the go. I honestly enjoyed this one. We also have Hangman, where you hang SpongeBob. What? I actually loved this game as a kid due to building the SpongeBob, but it's just weird to look at with an adult lens. It also got re-released in the Pineapple era. Guess Who SpongeBob Edition. I wish I still had this game for nostalgia's sake, because I used to play this one with my mom. You pick a character, and the two of you have to guess which one each other picked. I like how niche some of the characters they picked are, from Don the Whale, Stanley, Patrick's fake parents, Planktonomore. They even have Angry Jack, but used the wrong art for him. This is Angry Jack. The one they used is the guy who complained to Squidward in the end of Good Neighbors. I don't even think he has a name. Other than that, it's a fun one. SpongeBob Mastermind Tower. I have no idea what Mastermind is, but it seems to be where you have to guess where the characters are on the tower. It looks interesting though. Clue Jr. SpongeBob Edition. I asked for this game for Christmas solely for the SpongeBob theming, and instead I got normal Clue Jr. I felt so robbed on that day, because look at this box art. Look at this board. Just about every piece of art is original, and the lighting gives off really good atmosphere. Plus it's based off of one of my favorite episodes, Krusty Towers. They really outdid themselves and made my artist brain go burp. Yahtzee Jr. SpongeBob Edition. It's basically just Yahtzee, but replace the numbers on the dice with SpongeBob characters. No idea how that works, but I'm sure they explain it. I'm surprised they didn't make this sooner as well, but prior to the physical release, I used to own the digital version of Yahtzee Jr. SpongeBob Edition. I never figured out how to play. 2012's Trouble SpongeBob Edition. If I could go back in time and recollect any of the old SpongeBob games I lost, it would be this one, because it's impossible to find the one that I used to own. It's pretty much the normal game of Trouble, but your players are Plankton, and the board is SpongeBob. One of the poppers is even SpongeBob's eye. Ouch. Sadly, the re-releases of the game aren't as cool. They just use normal pawns, and the board isn't as creative. Sometimes it's not even called Trouble, and I'll show you one of them. We don't need that, Billy. We have Trouble at home. This is Trouble at Home. This is the Poppin' Race game. This isn't Trouble. Also, this is a part of the Where's Gary sweepstakes from Sponge on the Run. This was during that weird transition period where they thought that they were still able to put the movie in theaters. I'm still kind of salty that that didn't happen, because look, I consider the movie okay, but visually it is drop dead gorgeous. This is the board. Unfortunately, it isn't as cool as the one that I had as a kid, which is impossible to find, but it comes with a popper. And we have these pawn pieces. This is like SpongeBob. This is Patrick. This is Squidward. And this is, I guess, Mr. Krabs. But it's kind of hard to tell because they're just color-coded. Yeah, the one I had as a kid is much better than this. Around 2019-ish, the world was introduced to the burping SpongeBob game, which is hot potato, but with a burping SpongeBob. It's gross, and I prefer it when SpongeBob stays away from flatulence humor. But better out than in, I suppose. I have no idea if this counts as a board game, but I'm including it anyway. Okay, on further inspection, this is more of a card game with a dice, but I just wanted to showcase it because it is in my collection. Basically, the die is the categories. For instance, I can roll this die, and the one I got is the Krusty Krab. And my question is, what drink did Tom claim to have ordered with this pizza? Which is obviously Diet Dr. Kelp, and I got it right, so I get a point. And I believe it's like whoever gets like 10 or 11 right wins, but yeah. The 2020s seem to be a big comeback for board games, because outside of Trivia Pursuit, we have Plankton's Rising, which is a game about SpongeBob and the gang stopping Plankton from stealing the formula. Wow, how original. I don't know much about this game, but it looks super complex, but really cool. I especially love the Plankton statue. I'm more used to the old school board games opposed to the more complicated games they make nowadays, so perhaps I'm just stupid. Then we have SpongeBob Card Scramble. It looks like one of those go around the board type games. It sort of reminds me of stuff like Sorry. I never played this one, so I don't know how fun it is. Next up is Where's Gary? Another go around the board type game, but this time you collect tokens and find Gary. Nobody has documented this game, and I personally have not seen it in stores, so maybe I'll have to get this one. It's rather cheap online. And to wrap up 2020, we have the 100 Games collection, with the only games listed being Solitaire, Nine Men's Morris, Shelley's and Ladders, Roadrunner, Parcheesi, Tic-Tac-Toe, with an image of Sonic for some reason, Link 4, Game of Goose, Crokinole, and Chess. Hey, it looks like a fun way to introduce people to these older games. A lot of them I don't even know about. 2021 started with Doodle Bob Draw, which is a drawing game where you have to save SpongeBob after Bikini Bottom and the Doodle Dimension collided. This game looks like a ton of fun, especially since I'm, artsy. The next two games are groundbreaking in the SpongeBob board game lineup because they're based on two iconic games straight from the show. So let's cut to live action to have a look. Now for one of my personal favorites, Eels and Escalators. I always wanted this game to be real, so I am very grateful that they finally decided, hey, let's give the fans what they want. Here's the board, and basically how it works is that people take turns putting on the escalators and putting on the eels. This is optional, but they also have this really long eel. This is technically optional, but I force everyone to use this You Lose eel solely for accuracy. Look, it's just funny. We also have these guys, which are very accurate to the show. I'm just gonna call them valid creatures. These are the colors from the show, but you could play this game with 6 friends, which is awesome. And you get the dice, which is color accurate to the show. It does give you numbers, which wasn't something that was in the original, but I totally get why they did that. We also have this ugly looking die. I don't like it, but I believe this is for the Sailor Mouth mode. Yeah, there's 2 modes to this, the show mode and the Sailor Mouth mode, but typically I just use this to determine who will go first. Also, another optional thing that is mentioned specifically for the Sailor Mouth mode, but sometimes I like to include for fun, Mr. Krabs' Ladder, which is basically another form of escalator. Honestly, if you're a die-hard SpongeBob fan, I would highly recommend this. Or if you're a big fan of Sailor Mouth as an episode, I would also recommend this. It's awesome. One of my favorite items in my collection. For the final live-action segment, last but certainly not least, the Flying Dutchman's Treasure Hunt based on a real treasure map. I just noticed this, but they actually credit the artist. That's actually awesome. This board is fucking massive. Look at this thing. It barely even fits on the camera. We have some pieces straight from the episode, such as this tree where you can tell if Mr. Krabs' zipper is undone.
Shiver me timbers!
We have this shark for the sea. We have Too Many Doubloons. We have these pawns. It comes in 6 to 8 colors, I believe. I believe there is a story mode and another mode. I forgot what it's called. But for the other mode, the more complicated mode, you have this compass. Oh, it also comes with a key. This is for the brig. And just like in the episode, we have the skull and crossbone cards and the anchor cards. And yes, it does have the card that says, one of your shipmates have been a bad pirate, send them to the brig. However, they left out the card that says you are a real pirate, go straight to the X that marks the spot. Trust me, I've checked. I'm guessing it's so the game actually has some challenge, but my favorite part has to be the fact that you can dig up kinetic sand, just like in the episode. It's a little messy, but that's okay. I just appreciate that they have the gimmick. It also comes dice. Here's a shovel for you to dig your treasure. And here is the plastic treasure chest based on our real treasure chest. And it comes with a golden doubloon. I honestly wish the doubloons were actually plastic, kind of like Race to the Krusty Krab, but it's not that big of a deal. And it's cool to have this as a collector's item. Just like eels and escalators, I would highly recommend this to any SpongeBob fan. They did a great job turning this into a real game. Next up is 2023's Dominaut. This just looks like dominoes if I'm being completely honest. And lastly, 2024's Jumping Jellyfish Dice Game, which is about working at the Krusty Krab before you can go jellyfishing. It looks simple enough, but I wouldn't know. I don't really play dice games. That was my deep dive on the crazy world of SpongeBob board games. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed researching it. Which games were your favorite? Which games did you own? Are there any that I should get for a video? Comment below. And as always, it's all Sab from here.